you, Vanessa. Should the Prime Minister recognise Palestine as an independent state? We're asking now. 0207 862 2222. Love your thoughts. More than a third of MPs have written to Keir Starmer calling for the UK to formally recognise Palestine as a country, saying that would send a powerful message and be a step towards further peace efforts in the region. Formal recognition of Palestinian statehood would then allow Palestine to pursue legal rights over its waters and airspace as a sovereign state recognised by the UN. It's claimed it could also help aid peace efforts in the form of a so-called two-state solution. So what about this? Let's go back and see what history tells us. If we go back to, the 1500s? Would that help? This is a map of the Ottoman Empire here, which included the area in the Middle East we're talking about. So it lasted 600 years. This is really all the history we need before the 20th century. 1299 to 1922, founded in 1299 by Osman I. And then this guy, Suleiman the Magnificent, was the most important person. It reached its peak in the 16th and 17th century. The magnifying glass shows you Damascus, Jerusalem, Gaza, as they were then. The green means they were part of the Ottoman Empire, so they weren't really separate nations at that stage. So there was less bother. Now, after the empire, first of all, we had what was called the British Mandate in Palestine. This is in the early 1900s. Britain administering Palestine, saying Jews can live there, Arabs can live there, and then it gets tricky. And after World War II, you basically get Britain handing it over to the UN and the establishment of the State of Israel in 1949. The Arab nations around it invade. There's the 1967 war subsequently, and you get these lines here where Israel takes Sinai, West Bank, Jerusalem, Golan, Gaza. So they're beginning to expand, having been quite enclosed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas that they push out into in the Six-Day War. And you then go forward to 1979 and a peace treaty where Egypt get the Sinai back and recognise formally the State of Israel. So you can see the backwards and forwards motion of it. But in amidst all of that, in the last 100 or so years, Palestinians have been left without a country. And the problem for them, Christian, is that if you go back to the Ottoman Empire, they didn't have one then either.
No, well, it's never been a country, right? And whether it qualifies for country status is a whole other debate. I mean, you've got to have certain things around a stable government and a recognisable sort of entity, and that's the other problem, of course, that you've got the Gaza and you've got the West Bank. It's split up into two separate sections that don't actually touch. As you just pointed out, the history is so unbelievably messy and long, but what is certain to say is that Palestinian statehood is not just further away today than it was 30 years ago. I think it's far more unachievable today than it was 30 years ago.
Because don't you think that those people in Gaza need to be part of something that isn't just an occupying force?
I don't understand the point of statehood. I mean, Palestinians, the Gaza Strip was given its independence. You know, Israel cleared out a couple of decades ago. Hamas took over shortly afterwards. What have they done with the governance of that land? They've been appalling. They've turned it into a weapons factory.
Would it end up?
And why are we?
Okay, well, let's just.
I think that giving them statehood does nothing to fix the current problems, and worse than that, arguably, it looks like rewarding the terrorist acts of October the 7th, 2023.
Nelufar.
Okay. So if you can see a place called Gaza, I'm sure you can see a place called Palestine. If your mind can stretch to as far as knowing that there's a Gaza territory and a West Bank territory, your mind can stretch further to accept that Palestine has existed. Palestine is a land and a people that have existed for over 2,000 years. Palestinians know who they are, they know what their culture is, they know who their families are, and oftentimes they can trace their lineage back hundreds of years. Point one. The second thing that's really important to note, because you've been very clear that you don't see what the point of a Palestinian state is. I would tell you what the point is. There are many mechanisms that come into play as soon as a two-state solution is recognised. First of all, at the bedrock of most of European policy is one thing, including England's, a two-state solution. How are you going to have a two-state solution if there's only one state you recognise existing? It's important to also note that once the second... So at the moment, the United Nations sees Palestine as an observer state, which means that they don't have voting rights, they don't have the right to present themselves in big meetings. Giving them their own sense of statehood will allow them to go from observer status in the United Nations to a voting full member. That then triggers a whole raft of important powers that the Palestinian people need in order to exist and justify themselves.
Who would control? Because at the moment, Gaza's controlled by Hamas.
It isn't.
Would Hamas basically be...
Jeremy, Gaza's controlled by Israel.
Okay.
Currently, it's under occupation by Israel and it's being administered by Israel.
Palestinians
There is
voted
nobody...
in Hamas.
There's also been... last week, the Knesset in Israel voted to annex the West Bank. It could be that within a year, the conversation that we're having is completely transformed because not only does Gaza and the West Bank not exist, but that the people in there are no longer represented in any meaningful way whatsoever.
Maybe that's how this is. Now, if it's heading in that direction, that's terrible, isn't it, Christian? Because you're wiping out a people there.
Look, firstly, don't mark me down as an unavowed supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu, this Israeli government, which is particularly far right, all the politics of Israel. Although it's worth noting the Knesset is actually very democratically voted for. They've got one of the most democratic voting systems in the world. And the reason why Israeli politics is becoming more extreme is that its people are voting in response to increased fear about the threats to their
They have a vote.
country.
They have a representation, not only in Israel. And you're right, the Knesset is a very representative of the people.
So we're talking about whether Starmer should recognise Palestine. That's the question here. You don't think so?
Completely academic virtue
Absolutely
signalling
not.
point. If you want to talk about the starvation and getting aid in and all the rest, that is an absolutely fine, worthy conversation to have.
Quickly.
People have the right to determine their own destiny, and the Palestinians must be recognised in order for a two-state solution to be viable.
The Palestinians have thrown away every opportunity for statehood throughout their history.
I don't know how you can say that of them right now, the state that they're in. The Palestinian people are currently being starved to death, OK?
They're being starved.
Assuming that their number one priority isn't a political solution to this, is to not die.
Let's just get a call. Craig in Northamptonshire, hi.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. What do you think?
A quick one. Just a quick question for Christian first. When he says for Palestinian statehood that it should never be, what's his thoughts on Kosovo? Because Kosovo was handed over to the Albanians in 2000 and something. That was never a country.
But can't we, Craig, doesn't this game go on forever? Because then we go Kurdistan, we go Chechnya, you could talk about Scotland, you end up... They're all different examples, right?
Kosovo is a recognised state.
But Chechnya isn't.
Well, I'm talking about Kosovo.
Tibet.
I'm happy to be clear, Craig. I'm not saying that I oppose, in principle, a Palestinian state, but it has to be democratic, it has to be peaceful, and it has to be cooperative with its neighbours. And unfortunately, I don't see in practical terms, purely in practical realpolitik terms here, how a Palestinian state can exist given decades of anti-Semitic propaganda being forced down their throat by Hamas.
Well, let Craig answer. Craig,
all the rest of it, I
see it as viable?
They can be viable.
Craig.
Yeah, is that the same sort of hate and bile that gets taught in certain schools in the West Bank and in Israel, that they don't believe that Arabs exist? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't... That's a bit abstruse, if I may. I'm just trying to work out...
Well, it's not. There's videos to prove it. I can send you one now where there's a teacher...
But how does this help us, Craig? We're asking whether it's practical.
I think what Craig's saying is that you're spouting certain... You're saying certain things that feel very, very biased and directional.
Okay.
And I understand that to be what you're saying, Craig.
Right.
I don't want to speak for you.
All right. So, but just to say that Trump and Starmer meet today, and that obviously this is Macron's idea... Craig, if Starmer says to Trump, here's what we're going to do, we're going to recognise Palestine, what's Trump going to do?
He's just going to say, yeah, whatever, do what you want, it won't matter. You're nothing without me.
He's already dismissed Macron.
OK,
He's already
thanks,
said
Craig.
Macron's irrelevant.
Thanks, Craig, so much. Deborah in Hertfordshire, hi.
Hi, how are you?
All right, thank you. What do you think?
Absolutely not. 100% not. First of all,
Go on.
it would be rewarding a terrorist group for the second worst atrocity to Jewish people since the Second World War.
Jennifer just dropped her pen when you said that.
90% of the Palestinians are of Jordanian descent.
Meaning
Also,
that they are Jordan. They could go to Jordan. Is that right?
Yep. Also, Israel withdrew, as you said.
Deborah, don't pause. Sorry, because we're going to lose the thread. Keep going.
Sorry.
Whatever you're doing
As
that's
you said-
distracting you.
As you said, Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. Not only did they uproot Israeli live families, they dug up the dead bodies in the cemeteries because they knew what the Palestinians would do to the cemeteries. All it is doing is rewarding a terrorist entity.
OK, Nelufar, come back on that.
Deborah, it's really, I want to know from you, do you make a distinction between the Palestinian people and Hamas, or do you think that all Palestinians are terrorists and therefore they can't be trusted to run a country?
If all Palestinians weren't Hamas, when they were offered $5 million to release the hostages,
That all Palestinians
any
are Hamas?
person would have released the hostages.
Thank you. Ian in Blackpool, hi.
Hello.
Do you think we should recognise Palestine?
Yes, I do. I think because of the situation in March 25, where 147 of the UN member states recognised it, why aren't we? I think the other question should be, what harm would it actually do? And I can't see anything apart from positive. With the influence that we can give, on Palestine itself and the Palestinian people to overthrow, as it were, Hamas. I think that's a real positive thing.
I guess one practical thing is that if Israel were to be bombing, well, the Gaza Strip doesn't have any status in this way, but if Israel started to bomb another state, i.e. Palestine...
Or Syria, as it did 2 weeks ago.
That maybe becomes something that escalates within the UN a bit more, but it wouldn't stop them, I don't think.
All I'd say, and I want to try and have this debate in a sort of, calm and temperate mood as possible. But the obvious sort of counterpoint to your view that there are no downsides is that it may very well give impetus to other terrorist groups across the world that, following an attack with enough international pressure and enough sympathy from certain people in certain countries, you can achieve your aims through terrorism.
Isn't
that
but
the
they wouldn't
threat?
be getting it for the attack, would they? They'd be getting it because people see starvation and suffering in Gaza.
But it's the ultimate. That's what started.
I see.
This.
In
Was October
2014, Ian, in 2014, the British government had a non-binding vote on whether Palestine should be recognised as a state, and overwhelmingly from all sides of the political divide, everyone voted for the recognition of Palestine.
You want to talk
So
about...
I don't want. Sorry.
hang on.
It's very true to say that Palestine has existed in people's minds for a long time. The one important point here is
hang on, Ian's making an important point, but carry on. No, go on.
Spain, Ireland, Norway are all on their way, France as well, to recognising Palestine.
Okay.
I don't think that we should be out of step with the majority of the nations.
Ian, what do you make of Christian's point, which is the first one we came up with here, which is that you're basically saying, as a result of October the 7th, you are getting your own nation?
Sorry, just repeat that, Jeremy. I missed that, sorry.
Okay. So Christian's point is, as a result of the terrorist attacks on October the 7th, Hamas is getting its own nation.
No, I don't agree with that at all. No.
Okay, thanks.
I think. Sorry, go on.
No, you go on, Ian. Go on.
No, I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
I think you to conflate Hamas with the Palestinian people which Hamas, in my opinion, is basically a mafia organisation. And to conflate the two,
it's wrong to separate.
This is what it comes down to, isn't it?
It's wrong to separate them. It's like Germans who claim they had no responsibility for voting the Nazis in. They voted Hamas in.
Christian.
They won an election. They have been leading. You know, there's a reason why ordinary
It was quite
people,
a while ago, that
Yeah,
election.
but there's a reason
2007.
why... Well, they could have overthrown them.
2007. What are you talking about?
They could have overthrown...
Christian, I'm from Afghanistan,
Right.
yeah? I was born in Afghanistan. Your equivalence is saying that I'm a Taliban because I was born there and people over there run the country.
But
It's a ridiculous assertion to make. It's nonsense.
She's right, though, isn't she?
No, the ideology of Hamas... It's not this sort of lofty government thing that doesn't affect people. Ordinary citizens have been holding on to the hostages.
You're calling...
They've been fine with having guns in their children's school. They've been fine with Hamas putting...
Have they got a choice?
They voted them in.
In 2007.
Okay. So do you think if there were free elections, they'd vote for...
What I think is that you would believe that I am a Taliban member because I was born in Kabul.
Well, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that you are ascribing
You're making that
wrong
equation.
opinion.
All right. There's some aid drops, by the way, happening as a result of the suffering that's been seen in Gaza. This UK not doing them, but we can have a look at some pictures here. Keir Starmer saying that we may do it. So these would be nearer countries, I think. Jordan and United Arab Emirates doing food drops. I never know how effective that is because obviously you can't, in terms of quantity, you can't put that much in the back of a plane. But maybe it'll get to some of the right people. And there it goes. Jordan and UAE. Yeah. Let's see. Later is the papers and everything.